All right, brothers and sisters. Second one. I know it's two today, but trying to catch up. You know what I'm saying? We are in First Peter chapter 4, and the verses that minister to me today, another portion, as I read earlier this morning. I read Matthew yesterday, but I was just chewing on it all night, but I shared it today. But this morning, as I got into the Word, the one that ministered to me is chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. And I've shared on this, I believe, two tours ago. But again, I'm in a different place today than I was yesterday, than I was 14 days ago. And the beauty about the Word is the application portion. Sometimes when you read the Word for the first time, you can apply it in the literal sense of the interpretation. And sometimes you can read a verse throughout the years, and it'll be a literal interpretation that applies to you. I've been saved 24 years now. I haven't acted like it, but I'm at the point in my walk where it's no longer milk, but the meat. And at times it's even beyond the meat, more like the manna. You know what I'm saying? The spiritual, heavenly food that God has given me. So it's like almost thinking outside of the scripture, not taking it out of context. Again, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a preacher, I'm not a minister. I don't teach the word. I don't, no. I'm just sharing with you how it ministers to me, because what ministers to me, it might minister to one of you. And this morning, as I read this portion of scripture, it ministers to me in a different way, the application portion of it. So verses 1 and 2, Peter writes, "Therefore, since Christ suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves also with the same mind. For he who has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh for the lusts of men, but for the will of God." And here's how it ministers to me. The application portion, not the interpretation. I know what this means, for those who walk according to God's will suffer tribulation and trials of the world due to the enemy, our flesh, and the world. Our three enemies: Satan, self, and the world. But as this hits me this morning, as God is not only restoring the time that I lost with certain people in my life, but bringing new people into my life. And I'm seeing, as I'm meeting new people and entering new relationships, brothers and sisters in the Lord and life, looking back at the wrong way I had approached them, my demeanor. I made lots of mistakes in how I would carry myself as a man of God. Came out as cocky as opposed to confident. Would come out as a burdensome person as opposed to a blessing of a person. And due to those things I've done, I've suffered certain things in these relationships in the past, in churches. When I mean relationships, I don't mean just, relationships as like, brother and sister or a dating relationship. But I mean relationships in the church. Going to new churches, meeting new brothers and sisters, going to new places and making relationships, having relationships with other people when it comes to friendships and all that, And I would come off, I would portray myself as something just like, this big old mean guy with this look on my face, and just trying to really, I don't know, just in the flesh prove a point, and the spirit discourage others from coming close to me. And due to me coming into churches, of course, in fear, not knowing knowing what they would think of me, the fear of rejecting me and outcasting me because the way I am, I'd walk in there with this face like, what's up? Yeah, right? Kind of really dumb, right? Instead of walking in there, with the joy of the Lord, I'm walking in there with the armor ready to swing and just, throw down, as opposed to walking in, as a worshiper who wants to come into the service and worship God, and as a servant ready to serve. I come in there all armored up. What's up, man? Let's go. And it really caused a lot of not turmoil, but dissension and divisions. And I wasn't able to make brothers and sisters wholeheartedly because of what I portrayed, what I projected. And I've suffered lots of things in my walk because of that. Not tribulations of the world, but I've self-inflicted tribulations due to my demeanor and approach. And I see here how, he goes, you're going to suffer in the flesh. I've suffered some things. Again, this is out of context, but how it ministers to me is, it's an amazing thing how God's mercies are new every day. And as you grow older in the Lord and mature, and you ruin relationships due to your immature ways or fear or pride or selfishness or whatever it may be, a lack of social skills, not only do those relationships fall apart ugly, but you begin to learn your lesson. It's like those movies, where like Groundhog's Day, it's an older movie, or these movies where you keep reliving that day over and over until you finally get it right. But as you continue to do things the same, you suffer certain loss. You suffer certain people. You suffer certain heartaches and headaches and all that, And I've seen in my past 24 years of relationships with brothers and sisters and churches and all that, I've suffered mass loss and I've been church hurt, and that's because of my own doing, and then allowing myself to allow the enemy to come on in, or allowing myself to listen to other people as opposed to the man's voice as opposed to God's voice. And as I've gotten older now, I'm starting to realize some things that I've learned. Again, you see those movies where the day gets repeated over and over until you finally get it right, until you finally meet the right person, you say the right thing, you go to the right places, you act the right way, you accept the right challenges, you conquer those challenges the right way, as opposed to giving up or being bitter or angry. Instead of using all of your old methods to solve a problem, you've learned throughout every new day that came around, you've learned the lessons and you've learned how to overcome or how to adapt. Or just, you know what I'm saying? You learn these things. And he says that you no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh for the lust of men, but the will of God. And I like that. After, he says here, we suffer in the flesh. How can I say this? For he who suffered in the flesh no longer, he has ceased from sin. As you continue to move forward and learn from your mistakes in the past, as you continue to learn from those mistakes and apply the right answers or apply making the right decisions in relationships or in future decisions, you tend to cease from sin. You know what you want. You begin to live a purpose-filled life. Okay? You're no longer doing things accidentally. You're no longer, I don't know. Are we doing? I don't know. Where are you going? I don't know. What do I do? I don't know. But when you suffered things in the flesh, and then you've learned from those things, you've learned from the wrong you've done, and you get put back on a clean slate, and you're mature, and you get tested again on the day or on the life, on the situation, and you pass these tests. Not only have you walked according to God's will, not only have you learned to walk in the Spirit, in righteousness, in love, and truth, you purpose yourself in life now. You have a purpose. There is this confidence that you have in the Spirit, in God, in His Word, in His way, and in the steps you take. To the point where you no longer live for the flesh and the lusts of it, because you now are first-hand witness to what the fruit that is produced in those fleshly made decisions. You start sowing seeds of righteousness and you begin to live for the will of God. Again, it's different. How it ministers to me is different than what the interpretation truly is. But as he says one more time, since Christ suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves also with the same mind of suffering. For he who has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh, for the lust of men, but the will of God. And again, God has given me opportunities to do things over again, sober, in the Spirit, pure. There's been tests and challenges that God has come alongside me. We've overcome together, and the rewards that have been given to me due to the obedience, due to making the right decisions, the right choices, in the midst of being in the fire and realizing I'm not being burned, I'm being purified. The fire is not burning me because I'm not walking in sin. It is purifying me and removing whatever sinful things are in there that I did not see that came with what I have picked up in life. So hopefully that makes sense, brothers and sisters. I love you. I love the word. I love the Lord. I love love. Very emotional day for me in a great way. Hey, peace be with you. May the joy of the Lord be your strength. And hey, choose wisdom over the world. God bless.